I want to thank everyone who inspired this journey, a solitary path I've walked for 2 years to bring you reflections in rust. The words hung in the sterile, white-walled gallery. Xavier's smile, caught in the tight beam of a single spotlight, looked sharp enough to cut glass. The low hum of the climate control system was the only sound in the room as 100 people applauded his genius, his solitary, heroic journey. Journalist I vaguely knew turned to me, a flute of cheap champagne in her hand, and asked what I thought. It's an impressive body of work, I said, my voice even. Xavier and I met in a university darkroom that always smelled of vinegar and dust. He was a writer, a theorist. I was a photographer. We bonded over a shared obsession with Soviet-era architecture and the melancholic beauty of decay. Our first real collaboration was a road trip through the Midwest, chasing the ghosts of industry. Remember one night in Gary, Indiana, sharing a greasy pizza on the hood of my Subaru, the skeletal remains of a steel mill black against the bruised twilight sky. He was scribbling notes, I was cleaning my Hasselblad lenses. We felt infinite, like we were on the verge of creating something the world had never seen. That was the good memory. The first red flag was smaller, almost invisible. He submitted an article about our trip to a small arts journal and used one of my photos. When it was published, my photo credit was missing. He was mortified, swearing the editor must have cut it for space. He bought me dinner to apologize, and I let it go. It seemed like such a small thing. The Reflections in Rust project was born on that trip. For 2 years, it was our shared oxygen. We spent weekends in abandoned factories in Ohio, slept in cheap motels in Detroit. I was the eye, the one climbing through broken windows and waiting hours for the light to hit a sliver of peeling paint just right. It was the voice, the one who would take my images and weave them into a narrative. I paid for the film, the gas, the endless rolls of Fuji Pro 400H. He handled what he called the boring stuff. The emails, the grant proposals, the gallery submissions. Let me deal with the admin, he'd say, sliding a coffee across our cluttered studio table. You're the artist. The cracks started as hairline fractures. He'd have a meeting about our project that I wasn't invited to. Just easier to have one point person, he'd explain. Then he started using the word my in conversations with curators. My vision, my concept. I'd correct him gently at first, our vision, and he'd laugh agreeing, but the correction never stuck. I told myself it was just semantics. I told myself I was being sensitive. The work was what mattered. We were a team. I trusted him. That trust was my foundational error. The clue that shattered everything wasn't a dramatic confession. It was a single, accidental glimpse of his laptop screen at a cafe. He'd gone up to take a call, and a new email notification popped up on the screen. The subject line read, RE, Reflections Solo Creator Contract. Solo. The word pulsed in the air. For a full minute, I couldn't breathe. That night, I didn't sleep. I went to our shared cloud drive, the one where we stored everything. He had created a hidden folder. Inside was every email, every contract, every grant application for the last 8 months. My name was nowhere. He had systematically written me out of my own life's work. Using a file recovery tool on an old hard drive, I found the original partnership agreement we had drafted but never signed. He had deleted it. The true scale of the betrayal hit me when I saw the book deal from Keystone Press. A $75,000 advance, all in his name. The gallery opening was 3 weeks later. I confronted him beforehand in a quiet corner by the fire escape, the city lights blurring behind him. I kept my voice low. I showed him the files on my phone. He didn't even have the grace to look ashamed. He looked annoyed, as if I'd uncovered a minor logistical snag. Tessa, be realistic, he said, his voice laced with a cruel sort of pity. You were my assistant, my muse. Your photos are competent, but they needed my vision, my narrative to make them art. This project is mine. You should be grateful for the experience. The word muse was the kill shot. It was the moment the hurt inside me didn't just break. It crystallized. It turned into something cold, hard, and perfectly clear. As he turned to walk back to his adoring crowd, my eyes caught on the vintage silver cuff bracelet on his wrist. It was a one-of-a-kind piece I'd had commissioned for him, a gift to mark the end of our last big shoot. I remembered taking a macro photo of it, fascinated by the tiny, hand-stamped serial number on the inside clasp. He had forgotten. But I hadn't. The next morning, I called an intellectual property attorney. Her name was Ms. Vance. She was all sharp angles and sharper questions. Her retainer was $10,000. I sold 2 of my best lenses and a backup camera body to pay it. For the next 3 months, my life was a quiet, meticulous campaign. Vance's advice was simple. Let him get comfortable. Let him believe he's one. We assembled the evidence. It was a mountain. 412 time-stamped raw digital negatives from my camera, each with metadata proving I was the creator. Geotagged photos from my phone proving my presence at every single location. 72 text messages where we used the words, we, and our project. The recovered draft of our partnership agreement. The ironic coincidence that became our cornerstone was a travel blogger we'd met in a diner. Taken a photo of us, tired and happy, and posted it online with the caption, loved meeting these 2 creatives, Tessa and Xavier, hard at work on their Rust project. It was a public third-party validation dated a year before Xavier claimed he started his solitary journey. My close call came when Xavier texted me, a month after the opening. "Hey, haven't heard from you. Hope you're not taking that gallery thing too hard. Let's get coffee." My thumbs hovered over the keyboard, ready to unleash a torrent of rage. I remembered Vance's instruction, radio silence, and blocked his number. The trap was set for the Focus Forward photography conference, where Xavier was scheduled to be a keynote speaker. The decoy was letting him think my only recourse was a slow, expensive lawsuit. He walked toward the stage willingly, believing I was a ghost. The auditorium was packed with 500 people, critics, curators, artists, the people whose opinions forged careers. Xavier was on stage, bathed in the warm glow of success, his keynote titled, "The Solitary Artist, A Journey into Urban Decay." During the Q&A, I walked to the microphone in the center aisle. My heart was a cold, steady drum. "Xavier, my question is about the collaborative process." He smiled that familiar, condescending smile. As I said in my talk, this was a profoundly solitary journey, but of course, inspiration comes from everywhere. She didn't let him finish. "I'm not talking about inspiration. I'm talking about partnership." His smile faltered. "My attorney, Ms. Vance, has just served Keystone Press and the conference organizers with a comprehensive file detailing my copyright claim." A QR code bloomed on the massive screen behind Xavier's head, uploaded by a tech-savvy friend I'd hired for the event. For the audience, this link contains the original raw digital negatives, geotagged location data, and our shared project brief from May 2021. Wave of murmuring rippled through the room as people pulled out their phones. Xavier's face went from confusion to pale, clammy panic. "It also contains," I continued, my voice echoing slightly in the vast room, "a sworn affidavit from the silversmith who fabricated the cuff you're wearing, identifying its serial number and confirming it was a gift from me to celebrate the completion of our final photoshoot. And 57 text messages where you refer to it as our book deal." He stared at me, his mouth opening and closing silently. The moderator was looking at her own phone, her expression one of dawning horror. He finally found his voice, a weak, pleading whisper that the microphone amplified. "Tessa, why?" I looked directly at him, at the man who had been my closest friend, my creative soulmate. "You said I needed your vision. It seems you just needed my work." The fallout was immediate and spectacular. The conference hashtag exploded online. Within 24 hours, 2 major industry blogs had published detailed exposés, complete with links to the evidence I'd provided. Keystone Press issued a public statement, dropped Xavier, and froze the $75,000 advance. The gallery pulled his exhibition, citing a creator dispute. Facing a public relations disaster and irrefutable proof, Xavier's lawyers advised him to settle. I received the full advance, plus a significant sum in damages. Settlement also required him to issue a public retraction and legally assign me sole authorship of Reflections in Rust. A year later, a colleague sent me a link. It was a real estate website. Xavier was listed as their staff photographer. The photo showed him, older and heavier, standing in a bland, beige condominium. He was selling empty spaces. My book was published that spring under my name alone. It won 2 awards. I used the advance to secure a new studio, a bright, airy loft with clean white walls and huge windows. My life isn't loud or flashy, but it's mine. The ordeal didn't make me bitter. It made me precise. It taught me the vital difference between giving your trust and letting someone take your power. At my first book signing, an interviewer asked me how I managed to create such a deeply personal and solitary project. I smiled, the flashbulbs of the cameras feeling warm, not harsh. It wasn't solitary at all. It was a collaboration with myself, and I finally learned how to give myself proper credit.